Hi folks, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace, and today we're going to build the Protege Lite, which is an AMA standard class catapult glider. This is built for Category 1 and Category 2 ceilings, so basically gymnasiums and the like, even into a little bit higher sites like Kent Fieldhouse and whatnot. So you can launch about 50, 60, I'd say 50 feet up. Those of you who are looking at this for various catapult glider information that are flying Science Olympiad, the Protege Lite is not the airplane you want. You want the regular Protege for Science Olympiad. So go back to our website and look for the regular Protege, because Protege Lite is not what you want. It's built much lighter than the minimum weight for Science Olympiad, and it just will not perform as well. So with that, let's get started with looking at the inventory of your parts, and then we'll get started with the build. Okay, so once you get your package with the Protege in it, Protege Lite, I'm sorry, the instruction sheets include patterns for all of the parts for this airplane should you break any. If anything arrives broken though, let us know and we will replace it, obviously free of charge. Alright, so you're going to have a carbon fiber strip here that's 48 inches long. You'll have 3 sets of tail surfaces made from 1/32 inch balsa, and those are also your wingtips and whatnot. You're going to have 3 very thin sheets of foam, and this is fairly durable foam. Well, as its thickness goes, it's extremely durable, but you still want to be careful with it because this is incredibly thin foam. Your wing panels are made from 1/16 balsa. You'll have 3 sets of those wing panels, and you'll have 3 fuselages within this fuselage sheet. You'll have your dihedral gauge material. You have a catapult handle, piece of ballast weight, clay, it'll be bigger than that one, and you have your rubber strip for your catapult. So with all that, let me clear some things out of the way and we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to start with the fuselage. So go ahead, and what we'll do, you want to cut this carefully. Just release little tabs, and in theory, if everything has worked out perfectly, it will just drop out of the sheet. So you're going to cut 1 tail boom and 1 front section for your fuselage. Now, the way this works is you'll see these 2 marks here, which are for your wing location, and I know that doesn't show up on camera, but they're centered. They're not centered on the fuselage sheet, they're kind of on one side, and that's the top. So it lines up like that. So let me show you on camera if you can see. This is the top of your fuselage. The hook goes on the bottom. So what we're going to do, the reason is you don't want to flip this over and get it in there because it misaligns it a little bit. It will not hurt the alignment of your flying surfaces, but it makes it a little harder to put the carbon bracing on. And now, laying this again flat, we'll just latch it in. And there we go. Now, fuselage is not done at this point. In theory, it is stiff enough you can actually fly it, but it's very fragile. So at this point, we're going to get our carbon fiber out. And this is a little bit of a challenging step, so you want to be very careful with what you're about to do. So we're going to take this carbon fiber, and where I set it about 1/8 of an inch short of the tail back here, and where I come up to the crook of that hook up front. You can use wire dikes or whatever, but you want to break it at that point. Now, that's not the hard part. The hard part is what you're about to do now, because you need to have pretty good, use magnification or whatever, because what we're going to do is we're going to split this rod straight down the middle. I don't know if this shows up on camera, but what I'm doing is I've got that split like so, and this is good quality carbon, which means I can now strip it like a piece of bamboo. As you see, it's just dividing in half. And so, as long as I'm careful, and this one did not work. So if that happens to you, contact me and I will send you new carbon. To those of you who are wondering, this is the standard procedure the majority of us are following on this stuff now. I've got to find where I stripped that, because it did not behave. Alright, so I'm going to try from the other end, and we're just going to use that really light bit at the back. I'm going to try just pushing this through, because sometimes you get a little bit better reliability. I think I may have torn through a fiber or two. If you see one side getting thinner than the other, kind of tilt the blade against that, and that'll usually help you center it back up. Because what's happening is the blade is skipping or cutting through fibers, and you don't want that. You just want it to cut through the epoxy matrix. So you can see I'm kind of flexing that top one up. It's getting a little thin on that side. But just take your time as you go through this. And this carbon does not need to be thick, because all we're doing is providing just a little bit of strength into these fuselages. And so now I'm actually into the section where I stripped some off of. You can see I've still got 2 pieces of carbon here. So if you mess up like I did, it's still recoverable. And there you go. Now what we're going to do, remember this is the thin end, so we're just going to turn these around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue one of these to the bottom all the way back. And remember, it comes a little short of the tail, and that's just to preserve, that much less weight that we're doing. Optimally, you would use Duco cement on this. That does take a little while, and so it's a little tedious. Some people find it does not work that well, and I have 0 patience most of the time, so that's not completely true, but I don't have all day to bond carbon to fuselages. So what you want to do, optimally you would, if you're using CA like I am, you would use thin CA. I don't have any on hand, so I'm just using medium. So that does add a little bit of weight. And what I'm doing here is I'm rubbing all the excess CA off onto my hands, and yeah, that's annoying. It will not hurt you. My wife is in the background making noise about that. She works with carbon almost as much as I do, and hates gluing it with CA. And you try as much as possible to keep this centered as you go back. I'm gluing myself to the plane. What else is new? Alright, so that's got the bottom of the fuselage done. Now what you'll do is, we'll get the thin piece back here. What you do is just glue to the top, right over where you did before. So you can see right there is where you want to start it, and you work your way on back. We'll come back after I've got that glued. Okay, so I'm almost done bonding this carbon to the back, and one thing I thought would be important to note is you want to make sure that the fuselage stays straight. You can see mine's nice and straight. So if you, as you're working this down here, it is very easy to force a very substantial bow up or down into your glider, and that will make it almost impossible to trim. So you just want to be really, really careful about that. There we go. And it is now still nice and straight. And you flex it up and down, just very gently. And if you hear any clicking, that's a part that you didn't get bonded. And I get it all on the first try. Go me. That's you'll never see that happen again. Alright, now get your tail surface sheet. And yours will not look as cruddy as this one. There's some burn marks and whatnot. This is one that I grabbed out that did not pass quality control. You say, why do you use it? Because it's made from a really nice sheet of wood, and I don't like throwing really nice sheets of wood away. And so what we're doing is we're cutting these little plates out right here, and these are going to glue to either side of your fuselage up there on the nose. I'm going to just do this on either side. I'll do that. So now we've got this type of thing. And you can sand this down. This is the Science Olympiad style nose. So in terms of it being a little heavier, that's okay because you're going to need some weight up front anyway to balance the glider. But it is a little draggier as well, so you may wish to sand it a little bit nice and round. Besides, it'll make you feel better about it because it'll look cuter. And sometimes if you feel better about your plane, you find yourself flying it better. Now one thing you can do if you're real careful is you can sand a side taper in the back of the fuselage. That does shed a little bit of weight. And it means that you need less ballast up front to get the airplane to the correct CG.
Can I have it, please?
I'm actually going to sand even some of this. So I don't know know if you can tell, but it's just a little bit thinner there. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright, so set that aside, that fuselage aside for now. And let's get ourselves one of our wing sets. And we'll go ahead and cut these out. And I'll get the other one cut out in just a second. We'll be right back. Alright, so we've got these out. There is a little laser burr right here that you want to watch out for, but the rest of it will be fine. Now get your tail surface sheet and pop these little guys out. You'll notice they're a different thickness, so that's where we invoke some shenanigans. Get the burrs off of the inside here. We'll do the same thing on the trailing edge of these. And those are the only parts we're worried about right now. We can come back and deal with the others later. So we're going to arrange the wings like this. Now, what we're going to do, you want to lay these side by side, and here's why. What we're going to do is we're going to just put a tiny little bit of glue in here, and if you wanted to use Duco cement for this step, you can, because it does come out lighter than CA, but we're in a hurry here, so we're going to do it that way. And you want these two flat down like this, so there's going to be a ledge right here, and that's okay, because we're going to sand that ledge off in a little bit. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. And don't do what I just did. Yeah, so there we go. So you notice we've laid these side by side like that. And that way we don't end up with two left wings or two right wings. Make sense? Cool. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sand off this part right here. And if you can use a razor plane on this. If you'll notice, I'm not, and that's because I'm concerned about sanding excessively here. And so all I'm really looking to do is take this area down to the same thickness as this tip. But you can go ahead and you can taper the tip down a little bit as well. The main thing is I'm trying to concentrate on this area right here. That part of my sandpaper is quite degraded, so let's see if I can find a better spot. Not really, but it's working. And now, that's all good. A little bit right back here. And now it feels good all the way around. Like that. And we'll go ahead and we'll just remove the roughness from the top surface. That'll be good. Now, again, this is the bottom of the wing. This would be how you're looking at it. You're going to want to, along this part right here, you're going to want to sand this down to the same thickness as this, because we want it to meet up with the flaps. Now this part, I probably should have grabbed the razor plane, but I'll at least let you look at the side profile of this so you can see exactly what it is that we're doing. You want to pay very close attention to the orientation of everything as you're completing these steps. Alright, so this is the top of the wing. So if you look, you can see right here I am tapered up. Now, I'm going to do the same thing over on this wing, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we've got all of that sanded back there. Now, at this point, what you want to do is flip your wings over. And you're going to sand the same way you did on the back, and you're going to sand on the front here. And we're only doing it in the inboard at first. And you'll understand why in a second. Because we're going to sand this down to a fairly sharp point. And that gives us a nice airfoil. And then you can progressively work your way out here to the tips. But remember, the wood is thinner out here, so you don't want to sand through. So we're going to just work our way all the way out here. I can actually move this down. And don't do what I just did because I almost broke my wingtip. It's starting to curl a little bit. We'll hit it from the bottom where we're at. Alright, so that's our top surface. So we'll flip this wing over and we'll do the same thing on it, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're back. We've sanded both of these wings. We're looking at the top surfaces. So if you look, you can see top surface bevels down here, bottom surface bevels up. So we've got that on both sides here. Now we are going to flip these over. Get all the sawdust puddles or whatever, clods, clumps, something like that, off of there. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to pick up one of these sets of flaps. And what you'll want to do is carefully cut these loose, remove the little tabs on them so they're flush in there. And this one didn't cut all the way through here, so you just come through. These are the trailing edges. It doesn't matter if you cut the tabs flush on these, because they're just going to be out there in the breeze. Excuse me, I inhaled one of those dust clouds. And those of you that are going to go on about the dangers of balsa dust, this is not California, so balsa dust does not cause cancer here. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Now you've got your flaps. As you can see, they fit in. I'll turn one of these around. They fit in here like that. So, what you do is this. We're going to take, and I recommend using CA for this because I've not tested whether Duco will affect this foam. I know that regular CA will not. So that is what I am using here. And if you can't tell, there's a temper tantrum going on in Paul's room. So all we're going to do is just lay that in there like so. Make sure that it's bonded in, flush up against it. Remember, this is the bottom of the wing. So we're laying this flush against the table. And now we've got to kind of peel it loose from my parchment paper here. Maybe. There we go. And so now, that flap is attached. And then the last little tidbit, we'll rub it on the table here, like this. And this gives us the flap action on these. And so now, if you look, You see that the flap is curved down. Now we'll repeat that on this side, and then we'll come back and we'll join them together. Okay, so we've got these wings done. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip them right side up. We're going to sand about that much of an angle in there, just to give it our dihedral bevel. And it does not take much. And the same thing here. And so those, we'll just press the flaps flat for now while we're doing this. There you go, like that. Now, we've got dihedral gauges over here. And some people, I supplied the dihedral gauges in this format for this reason. Some people like to put one under each side. I just like to lay one wing flat and put them both under that same side. You get the same result either way, it's just which style you personally prefer. I'm going to take this guy set here to weigh that wing down. I'm going to glue these together.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Kevin. I don't know what I'm being thanked for, but anyway. And so we get that arrangement, like so. Set that aside. And so I'm going to put glue on here. And again, you can use Duco for this step if you prefer. It does give you a slightly lighter result. And then we're going to do that. And that actually bonded super fast, so I got a little bit of bonus dihedral, which is not going to hurt you as long as it's not tremendous. And so there's my dihedral. I'm going to sand a tiny little bit of a flap in the bottom here. It's a klepto kid stealing scraps.
A scrapper wood.
Alright, now we're going to take this pylon, and this is the orientation of the pylon. So this is the top, this is the bottom, that's the front.
Hey.
So,
A
what we'll do with this guy, we'll just pop it out like so. Be very careful with this step because this piece of wood is very fragile at this stage in its existence. Just gently drag it across here to remove the burrs. And you can round off the front and back if you like. I like to because, I don't know, it makes me feel better. But you have to be really gentle here or you're going to break this. Somebody's going to ask, why in the world did I orient the grain this way? And the answer is because once it's assembled, this is the strongest orientation. Right now, it's not. But what we're doing is we're interlocking the wood grain to make a stronger airplane. So now, I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to put glue here. Again, another step for which, yes, you could use Duco. Would give you a lighter wood, or a lighter bond. We're just going to gently lay this in place, lining it up front and back. And now it's on there. And yes, you can have a little bit of misalignment this way, it's not going to hurt you severely. Mine's not lined up. So at that point now, if you remember those little marks on your fuselage, that's what they're there for. So I'm going to, before I bond this, I'm going to try to sand just a little bit of a groove. You do not have to have this groove, it just allows you to build a little lighter because you can use less glue. And I am not doing so great at it, and that's okay, because this will bond on here just fine. Alright, put the glue in.
Beep. Beep, 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 beep.
line that up there. And now we get a nice result. And just check to make sure that you've got enough glue in there that it's holding. I'm not happy with the amount I have, so yes, that's a whole bunch of weight on there. If you're trying to set a record, it's not going to be helpful, but there you go. Alright, we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our tail surfaces here. So we're going to pop the tail surfaces out. Particularly with the rudder, you can sand the rudder very thin. It is not going to hurt anything. It just allows you to get rid of weight back aft. Do not sand this little tab off the front though. It's very helpful in getting it assembled. So basically I'm just trying to sand this ridiculously thin, and I'm trying to do it in a short period of time because, you know. But take your time with this. What you put into it is what you will get out. And so most of that rudder is now down around 10 to 12 thousandths thick. So you can see, I don't know if you can see the shaft. Anyway, there we go. You can see it's very thin. I've got a thick spot right back here though. The flight loads on your rudder are very low, so it does not need to be strong. Now with the stab, you don't want to sand everything quite as crazy thin, but you do want to sand it down. So, you know, kind of have at it. You want to sand really out towards the edges is where you want to really thin it down. And you'll notice I only sanded one side so far. And I'm going to show you, I don't know if the light will show up. You can see it's quite a bit more opaque over here than it is here. Now once this airplane is built, you want to keep it away from moisture because these tail surfaces can and will work pretty substantially. So keep them dry, they won't work. Yeah, that's about right. Now, this is the top of the stab, and here is why. I mean, the curvature is inconsequential with these Reynolds numbers. I've got a thick spot back here I want it to go away. The reason this is the top of the stab is if you'll notice, this little notch is offset a little bit. Let me show you that. You can see that it's offset. So we want the offset over on this side. It actually doesn't matter, you can do it on either side. But the bottom line is, once we lock this rudder in, since it's offset that way, the boom goes on this side. And Again, go easy on the glue here. I would suggest stopping your glue about a quarter of an inch before you get to the back. And we can just lay this in, get it more or less straight up and down, and you're good to go. Alright, I will be right back. Okay, again, boom goes on this side. We're going to set the plane over on the side of the table, and that way we can stick this in here. And make sure you leave enough sticking out the back, and you can test fit here. That's enough for me to grab a hold well onto the tail. So, I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. And I'll even wipe some of it off because I want just a little bit on here. I'm going to lay this down. Notice I've got the wings kind of eyeballed as far as alignment. And I just glued myself to that. So, now if you notice, I don't have any stab tilt either way. So that's a good place to start. Now, as far as balancing this airplane, it's currently balancing way back here. I want to balance the airplane right a little bit ahead of those flaps. So, currently very nose heavy. And there's probably way more clay than we need. Yep. And again, this balance point is going to move around. You're going to find yourself moving it even within a given flying session. And just a little bit nose heavy. There we go, right there. Alright, so you're balanced and ready to go, and so now we'll do some basic trimming. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so one thing I did leave out is we need to make a catapult for this airplane. I don't recommend a super long catapult because the airplane can get caught on the catapult and you will do very substantial damage to it. So, there we go. And now we'll just take this, do it the same way as we do with all our J&H Aerospace catapults. And we will bring this through, try not to get stuck on the knot. And in this case you may actually, I would suggest actually putting a little bit of glue or something here because this one's not wanting to stay put. But there you go. And that gives you enough to safely catapult launch this airplane. Alright, on to the trimming side of things. Okay, so we're going to do some test glides here. And the airplane looks real happy, but it's not turning. And that's okay. Now, if you'll notice that CG from mine gave us like perfect glide. That's a lucky shot, and it's also meaningless at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm bending my rudder a little bit. So you can see, like that. I'm right-handed, so I want this airplane to circle. Excuse me. I want it to circle to the right. So let's try again. And that was a right turn. Excuse all the mess. I had a birthday and I got presents and cleaned everything up. Alright, now at this point you want to throw the airplane, you want to see it slowly start to pull up and swing off to the right. So I'm going to throw it nose down. And, oh, it hit something. Alright, that was literally perfect except for that part. Let's carefully get you out of the mess. So then, let's try it one more time. I think it's flying just perfectly. So, we'll launch it over this way. And look at that. Now, I saw something that concerns me. And let's find out if it's true. Let's launch over towards the kitchen. And the airplane stays a little nose down. So you don't want that. You want it to kind of raise its nose and plop in. That means right now it's a little bit too neutral. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend up this side. So since I'm trimming to the right, I want the left side of the stab bent up just that little bit. That's actually too much. That tiny a little bit. Now, the airplane's probably going to stall, but we're looking for the recovery. And we did see the stall. We start recovery. Thank goodness I'm not cutting anything right now because my plane landed in the laser. Which is actually where I made it earlier. Anyway, so let's try again. And there was a slight stall and it plopped in. Now, one of the things, Caleb, don't do that. Alright, so let's check one more time, and we'll just see what the glide looks like and make sure that it doesn't need more nose weight. And it does not. So that's just about perfect. Alright, so there we go. Let me get some things set up and we'll be right back. Okay, so obviously we have not gotten into the catapult launching and whatnot. However, what I can tell you is at this point you're going to start launching, holding the airplane back gradually, launching about this attitude, maybe in a little bit of a right turn like that if you're right-handed again, and you'll just let it go. So basically it wouldn't even be that much. It would be like this right here is enough. And then what you're looking for is for this airplane to go up and then to slide off to the right, like so. Now, if the airplane tries to roll over, you're going to grab the wing, this wing, the right wing, and you're going to twist it in this direction so you raise the leading edge. Don't mess with the flaps back here, and do not mess with the wingtips. You just want your wingtips to be flat. Just keep them flat. Don't bend them or anything like that. Now, on the other hand, if the airplane, you launch it straight and it goes straight and it doesn't fall off to the side, increase that rudder trim. So bend the rudder more that way. Again, keeping these wing panels close to flat as possible. Maybe this one slightly higher than the other one. And that's all you're really looking to do. Do not trim anything until after the airplane has dropped into the glide. Nose weight does not dictate anything. Any stalling in the transition, any looping on the way up is all addressed with tail surfaces, rudder, and those wing adjustments. Once the airplane is gliding, you want to look for what it's doing. If it's not turning, you're going to have to increase the rudder trim, and then you're going to have to play with warping the wings to force the launch to be okay. If it's stalling in the glide, you address that only with the addition of nose weight. No other adjustment for that. On the other hand, if the airplane is flying kind of fast in the glide, but is launching okay, just remove nose weight. Don't adjust any of those tail surfaces. So, with that, that is how you build and fly the J&H Aerospace Protege Lite. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've learned some things flying these gliders. You can obviously check it out on our website. You can purchase it. If you've got questions or comments, comment section below. We'll answer anything, even stuff not about this airplane. So, with that, we'll see you later. Have a great day.